When we talk about the best places in the world to live, names like Zurich, Copenhagen, or Vancouver almost always appear at the top of the lists. These are organized, clean, safe cities with high quality of life indices. But there is also another side to the coin. Scattered across the planet are places where daily life is almost a sentence. Whether due to relentless weather, suffocating pollution, unrelenting war, or a total lack of infrastructure, everyday life in these places is a test of survival. Each city has its own challenges, but they all share one thing in common: conditions so adverse that they test the resilience and dignity of those who live there. Today, at Bello Mundo, we take you to see the 10 worst places to live in the world and the reasons that make them such inhospitable places. Number 10. Agbogbloshie, Accra, Ghana. On the outskirts of the capital Accra, in Ghana, there is a place nicknamed Sodom and Gomorrah by the residents themselves, not by chance, but because it represents chaos in its raw state. Agbogbloshie has become a symbol of the worst that humanity can produce when it mixes inequality with environmental neglect. It is one of the largest electronic waste dumps in the world, a technology graveyard where the luxury discarded by rich countries becomes poison for those who have nothing. Computers, cell phones, refrigerators, and broken TVs arrive here in crowded containers. They say it's all reusable, but in practice it's toxic debris piled up in the open air. The parts are burned in bonfires to extract copper and other metals. The sky is black with smoke. The air stinks of melted plastic. The ground is soaked with heavy metals. Children break monitors with stones. Men handle wires with their bare hands. All this for a few coins. The soil and water are contaminated with lead, mercury, and arsenic. Residents suffer from chronic pain, skin diseases, and neurological problems. And as if that weren't enough, they still live surrounded by violence, rats, mosquitoes, and open sewers. In 2021, part of the community was removed, but toxic activity continues in the surrounding area. Here, living means breathing smoke and stepping on poisoned soil every day. Number 9. Longyearbyen, Svalbard, Norway. It may seem strange to put a place in Norway on such a list, a country with a very high HDI, good salaries, security. But Longyearbyen is a frozen exception within this Scandinavian paradise. We are talking about the northernmost city in the world, an isolated spot in the Svalbard archipelago, just 800 miles from the North Pole. There, humans live at a disadvantage. In summer, the sun shines all the time, 4 whole months without nightfall. In winter, the opposite. More than 80 days in a row without seeing daylight. Not even a glimmer. Just darkness and cold, a cold that easily reaches minus 30 degrees. Living there requires discipline. To stay sane, residents follow strict schedules, use special lamps, and try to keep their routine going even when their brains are begging for rest. But it's not just the psychological aspect that suffers. Outside the city, the risk is real. There are more polar bears than people in Svalbard. Everyone carries a gun. Anyone who leaves the urban area must be ready to defend themselves. But it's not just the light, or lack thereof, that complicates things. Temperatures can drop below minus 30 degrees. And there are so many polar bears that leaving the city without a gun is prohibited. Mothers with babies on one side and rifles on the other have become a common sight. And the most curious thing, you can't be born or die in Longyearbyen. Pregnant women have to go to mainland Norway weeks before giving birth. And anyone who becomes seriously ill has to move away. There are no nursing homes or fully equipped hospitals. Burials? Number. The frozen ground prevents decomposition. The only options are cremation or sending the body away. Living here means accepting almost unimaginable restrictions. It means loving the wilderness, even when it reminds you every day that you are an intruder. Number 8. Migingo Island, Uganda, Lake Victoria. Imagine a piece of land smaller than half a soccer field, lost in the middle of a lake, where hundreds of people live crammed into zinc shacks. This is Migingo Island, on Lake Victoria, a 21 square feet rock covered with crammed zinc shacks. Here, there are no trees, no soil, no space. Everything is sheet metal, makeshift walkways, and boats parked until there is no room left. People live practically piled on top of each other. They sleep in tiny rooms and share the alleys with gallons, nets, and boxes of fish. The surrounding water is what sustains everyone. There is an abundance of Nile perch, a valuable fish that has attracted poor fishermen from both neighboring countries. However, this abundance has become a source of conflict. Uganda and Kenya dispute ownership of the island. Both send armed police there, and some have even called it Africa's smallest war. Life on the rock is anything but peaceful. There is no sewage system, nor real bathrooms. Many people relieve themselves directly into the lake, the same lake that provides water for drinking and cooking. There is no hospital, no school, but there are bars, brothels, and even a small makeshift casino where fishermen spend their earnings. The heat is hellish, the smell is a mixture of rotten fish and diesel smoke, and the noise from the generators does not stop even at night. Migingo is claustrophobic, dirty, tense, and on top of that, it floats in political limbo. Number 7. Makoko, Lagos, Nigeria. At first glance, it looks like a fishing village, but as soon as you get closer, you realize that there is nothing peaceful about it. We are on the outskirts of Lagos, Nigeria's largest city, where an entire community literally lives on the water. It is a so-called floating slum, a cluster of precarious shacks suspended on rotten wooden stilts erected in the middle of Lagos Lagoon. Almost 300,000 people live in this tangle of logs, rusty zinc, and plastic. There are no streets or sidewalks, only narrow canals where children row canoes and adults try to sell fish. Most of the houses are on the water, others on marshy ground that turns to mud with any rain. And oddly enough, it is in this foul-smelling water that everything happens. People bathe, fish, and throw trash there, and sewage flows without any treatment. The smell is hard to describe. A mixture of rotten fish, human waste, coal smoke, and humid heat. Mosquitoes feast, spreading cholera, malaria, and typhoid fever. When it rains heavily, everything floods, and there have been times when entire houses have disappeared, swept away by the current. The government has tried to remove the community more than once. In some cases, teams arrived, destroying structures and expelling residents overnight. But the people stayed, because those who were born there have nowhere else to go. Number 6. Damascus, Syria. Damascus was once the heart of Syria. Today, it is a city that struggles to breathe, like someone trying to survive in a field of rubble. After more than a decade of civil war, the capital has become a symbol of decay. In 2022 and 2023, it appeared at the bottom of the world, ranking for livability. No other capital seemed to offer so little to those trying to live there. Much of the city is still scarred by bombs. Facades riddled with bullets, entire buildings destroyed, streets with holes blown open by explosions. The infrastructure has collapsed. Everything is lacking: water, electricity, food, jobs. There are places that go 3 days without a drop of water from the tap. And when the water does arrive, it is only for a few hours, without enough pressure to reach the upper floors. Electricity comes and goes. In general, there are 2 hours of light followed by 6 in the dark. Generators and oil lamps have become part of the decor. At subsidized bakeries, lines wrap around the block. Basic foods have become too expensive. The price of bread, falafel, even potatoes has become an obstacle. More than 80% of the Syrian population lives in poverty. And the fear is not over. Despite being under government control, Damascus still bears the weight of repression. There are checkpoints, militias in the streets, reports of arbitrary arrests, and the collective trauma of those who saw the country collapse. Living in Damascus today means existing between the memory of what once was and the uncertainty of what could still get worse. Number 5. Oymyakon, Russia. Do you think you've been cold before? Then get ready to visit Oymyakon, a small village in eastern Russia that holds an extreme title. It is the coldest inhabited place on the planet. At the height of winter, the average temperature is below -50 degrees. That's right, minus. And there have been records of almost 70 below zero. There, everything freezes, including life. Cars cannot be turned off. Those who live there leave the engine running continuously. If you turn it off completely, the gasoline turns to stone. And it's not just the landscape that freezes. Saliva, tears, even eyelashes turn into icicles. Throw boiling water in the air. It turns to snow before it falls. Cell phone out of your pocket. Forget it. It stops working immediately. Even the ground is a problem. Since the soil is permanently frozen, building anything requires houses to be built on stilts. If they touch the ground directly, the structure sinks. Burying someone is also not simple. You have to make a fire to soften the ground before digging. The cemetery becomes a battle against the permafrost, just like in Longyearbyen, Norway, which we talked about earlier. Here, too, the sun disappears for weeks. From November to January, it's just darkness, not even a sliver of light. In other words, difficulties on all sides. Even so, about 500 people resist. They are hunters, reindeer herders, fishermen, people who are proud to live in one of the coldest places in the world. Number 4. Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Port-au-Prince was once the capital of a republic. Today it looks like a city under siege. The state has disappeared, the police are overwhelmed, and gangs are in charge. Since 2021, when the Haitian president was killed in an attack, Haiti has plunged into endless chaos. More than 80% of the city is under the control of armed groups. They decide who comes in, who goes out, who lives, and who dies. In many neighborhoods, leaving home has become life-threatening. Kidnappings have become commonplace, and anyone can become a target. Meanwhile, the country is experiencing the worst hunger crisis on the continent. Half the population cannot get enough food. Food prices have skyrocketed. Gangs block roads and charge tolls on trucks carrying supplies. Much of the cargo is looted before it reaches its destination, and what is left is too expensive. The situation is so desperate that mothers line up for a plate of food. Malnourished children crowd into aid centers, and some resort to cookies made of clay and salt just to stave off hunger. Public health has collapsed. The system was already fragile since the 2010 earthquake. Now everything is lacking: drinking water, energy, medical care. And even in shelters, there are reports of violence against women and girls, some forced to sell their bodies in exchange for food so they don't starve to death. Port-au-Prince has become a picture of total bankruptcy. It is a capital city where there is no government, no security, and where living means facing an invisible war that has no end and no rules. Number 3. La Rinconada, Peru. In third place on our list, we now arrive in Peru to visit La Rinconada, the highest city in the world. It is more than 16,400 feet above sea level in the heart of the Andes. That alone makes the simple act of living a challenge. The air is thin. Half of the oxygen that exists at sea level disappears up here. Those who arrive feel dizzy, have headaches, and their hearts race. Many residents end up developing what is known as chronic mountain sickness, which leaves permanent scars on their health. And the cold is relentless. Sub-zero temperatures are routine. Nights of 20 degrees below zero are common. Inside the houses, there is no heating, no comfort, not even basic sanitation. The water comes from glaciers, but it is already contaminated by mercury used in the mines. In fact, it was because of the mines that this place exists. The city was born from the promise of gold. It attracted thousands of people who came in search of wealth. But what they found was a frozen, chaotic, lawless hell. The mines operate precariously, exhausting workdays, constant accidents, exposure to mercury and silica. The life expectancy of a miner barely reaches 35 years. Outside the tunnels, armed gangs invade mining areas, spreading violence and fear. That's why they call it Ice Hell or the Devil's Mine. Number 2. New Delhi, India. We leave the ice of the Andes and now land in the suffocating heat of the Indian capital. New Delhi is an urban colossus with over 30 million people and one of the most polluted places on the planet. The air here is so thick with dust, smoke, and toxic particles that breathing for a day is equivalent to smoking almost 20 cigarettes. That's right, 20, even if you've never touched a pack. The gray haze is constant. Eyes burn, throats close up, children cough constantly. Pollution not only causes suffering, it kills faster. Just to give you an idea, living in this area reduces the life expectancy of those born here by an average of 7 years. But the problem isn't just the air. The streets are full of trash. The rivers are filled with sewage. In many neighborhoods, there are no bathrooms or garbage collection. It's normal to see people relieving themselves on the street, in vacant lots, on the train tracks. More than 700 million Indians still don't have access to basic sanitation. In Delhi, filth flows through ditches while food vendors work right next to them. And the smell is a mixture of burnt plastic, feces, urine, and rot that seems to stick to your skin. Living here means dealing with respiratory diseases, infections, diarrhea, and fevers. It means fighting against an environment that challenges the human body at every turn. Number 1. Norilsk, Russia. We now come to the most extreme place on our list, and it is no exaggeration to say that Norilsk, in the frozen heart of Siberia, is perhaps the worst inhabited place on the planet. The city has just over 170,000 residents and is completely isolated. There are no roads connecting the city to the rest of Russia. The only way to get there is by plane, or during the summer by boat on the Yenisei River. And that's just the beginning. Norilsk was built on top of one of the world's largest reserves of nickel, palladium, and other valuable metals. Mining drives everything, but it also poisons everything. The air pollution is so absurd that local factories alone emit the equivalent of the pollution of an entire country, like France. The sky is always covered in smoke. The metallic smell sticks in your throat, and the health problems are predictable. Respiratory diseases, cancer, skin irritations. Life expectancy there is up to 10 years lower than in other parts of Russia. And there's more. In winter, thermometers plummet to -50 degrees. That's right. And for 45 days in a row, the sun simply does not appear. It's called the polar night. The wind cuts like a knife and snowstorms are frequent. In some of them, soot from factories darkens even the snow itself. The city becomes a black blur in the middle of the white immensity. Many people develop depression. The cold, darkness, pollution, and isolation create a kind of climatic prison. Norilsk not only tops this list, it redefines what it means to live in a hostile environment. And that's it for today. Now tell us, which of these places surprised you the most? Leave your comments below. We love to hear what you think. Take advantage, subscribe to Bello Mundo, activate the bell, and leave a like to show your support. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.